Welcome to Spinning Back Clique, where each week here at MMA Junkie, we take a quick spin through the biggest headlines in the sport. After a 1-week hiatus, I'm back in the driver's seat. Got Gorgeous George and Goze from MMA Junkie Radio with me. Let's not wasting time, fellas. Let's get on the clock. And there was a little bit of MMA this past weekend. Charles Oliveira picked up a big win over Kevin Lee. DeBronx said he'll be at UFC 249, assuming UFC 249 happens, cage side for that title fight because he thinks he deserves the winner of Khabib Nurmagomedov and Tony Ferguson. What do you guys think? Does he deserve that title shot? Has he done enough with this crazy win streak that he's on? And if not, who should he fight? Let's start with Goze. 2 minutes on the clock. How about it?
Well, definitely his record deserves it. Whenever you're on a type of streak like that, yeah, it's hard to tell somebody you don't get a title shot when you put together that many impressive wins. However, just the state of his division right now, I don't see him getting there anytime soon, really. It's clogged up at the top. It's not good for him right now. It sucks for him. Great victories. The fact that he's getting finishes, he has to keep doing that. But honestly, if I'm him, maybe I take a step back and just let everything play out. But look to maybe like the winner of a Poirier and Hooker fight, someone like that, or maybe a Gillespie fight. But take some time because really that I see the top being clogged up for quite a while right now.
How about you, George? I mean, you're always constantly fiddling with the rankings and figuring out where people sit and where they stand. What do you think? I mean, is he in line for a title shot? And if so, I mean, what are some adjustments? What are some other people he could fight?
He's not in line for a title shot because Lee was just the first of many obstacles to get to the top. You still got to get through the Gaethjes, the Poiriers, the Fergusons to get to the champ. Not all of them, just one of them. And so the big fight card is obviously 249, fellas. And if that does go down, wherever it may go down, you know that I think we all know the script. If Khabib wins, it's Khabib versus Conor more than likely. Save for the rematch, you know, if those guys just fought the epic fight of the ages, I don't know. But if Khabib wins, then I think they match up Conor. That frees up Justin Gaethje, Hooker versus Gaethje. I like it. If Ferguson wins and there is no rematch for Khabib and Conor does decide to fight Ferguson, then maybe catching somebody on the way down. Maybe the winner of Ferguson and Conor is going to tell Khabib, you need to win one before you get back to me. That's where Oliveira could step in. All those other guys like Makhachev, Fajeda, they're matched up. You look down the list that you're either coming off a loss and recovering or you're matched up. So I kind of like those possibilities, which, again, I matched them up against some contenders, but he's not ready for the title shot just yet.
Yeah, I agree. I kind of really like the idea of waiting for the winner of Hooker and Poirier because either one of those, I think that'd be a great match. If not, if you had to do something now, maybe Cowboy or Ally Quinta in some rematches, you know, get a little bit of that back. Keeps you moving in the right direction at least. All right, Damien Maia, he suffered a TKO loss in Brasilia. At 42, he says, listen, that's probably going to be it for me. One more, and I'm done. What do you think, man? Let's come up with some options. Who would you like to have him fight in his last fight? The guy is certainly going into the Hall of Fame at some point. He's got one more left in him. Who should it be? George, start with you. 2 minutes.
Simple. Diego Sanchez. I mean, these guys have been going at it for a long time. You know, they both, I'm sure, respect each other, and I think they can both safely compete against each other, kind of at each other's strengths, pull each other's strengths from each other. And it doesn't interrupt the title scheme at all. And you know, I don't think I'm out of line in suggesting it. You know, it's not like, oh my God, one guy's lost 6 straight and the other one's won 6 straight. It's nothing like that at all. So I don't know. It's just the name that jumped out at me. You know, there's a lot of guys that are kind of like on that. You know, they were murderers at one point, but things haven't gone well for them lately. Carlos Condit, I guess, is another name that stands out. I don't want to steal them all. I'm sure you have a couple.
Not a bad one. I mean, look, Diego was certainly a name that came up. What do you think, Goze? Is that the one, or do you see some other names out there?
Oh, man, I actually think that might be the one. The reason I like that is, you know, in pro wrestling they have this term of putting someone over. But these are actual fights. You can't really do that. But there are ways that you can match up fights. One thing that George said in Diego Sanchez is I think the one thing you can look at is at least you have a guy that's fought at 155, kind of like a smaller guy. A guy I was thinking was maybe like a Michael Chiesa, somebody that's just going to be fun when you hit the ground, and something that maybe might not put Damien Maia in the most of danger, right? A dangerous situation. He's saying he's on his way out. Maybe a Chiesa, maybe a Diego. I really like the Diego Sanchez matchup. I think that one probably makes the most sense.
I'm going to throw a crazy one out there for you. BJ Penn. What about get BJ Penn? I mean, he wants another fight as well.
Is he officially back, or did he get cut?
They got things going. I'm just saying, I'm throwing it out there because, as you said, I mean, look, like you putting people over, you know, maybe they can agree, like we won't hit each other in the head or something like that. We'll both just go out there and grapple. I mean,
that'd be fun. That's what Burns was supposed to do, but he didn't want to grapple.
He didn't want to do that at all. I'm just saying, nobody wants to see Damien Maia get laid out. That's the truth. I mean, right?
Yeah.
You want to go out, give him somebody that'll grapple with him. How about BJ Penn? Let's get nuts. All right, listen. During this time of uncertainty that we talked about, man, there's going to be some scrambling going on. The UFC made it clear. They sent out an email that was published that they're basically looking for replacements to jump on these cards. So there's going to be some new names, and there's going to be some people that weren't in the UFC not that long ago. And I wonder, UFC caliber fighter, that used to be a big thing, right? It meant something. We talked about it a lot. Was somebody there or not? So I want to ask you guys, does UFC caliber fighter, does that mean anything anymore? 2 minutes on the clock. Goes, how about it?
Yeah, I think it means a lot. Even going back, how many times do you remember the Ultimate Fighter TV show when somebody would get a victory there and claim they're an Ultimate Fighter? And how quick was everybody else to jump on that guy and say, you haven't earned your stripes yet. You haven't had a fight in the big organization. It means a lot for these guys, especially the routes they take to get there. So to kind of take somebody and just throw them in there, regardless of whether they've been there before or whatever, they're not there now. And fighters lose spots in the UFC for a lot of things. They didn't fight hard. They didn't fight the type of style that fans like. And it just kind of would demean all that, I think, if you just throw someone in there. There's ways that we can fix these type of things, guys. You brought up solutions. Okay, if there's fights that just absolutely have to happen, like a Tony and Khabib, give us a $20 pay-per-view and just give us one fight or something. If you have to do that. $20, here. That's how you get your product across. But to just kind of throw people together for no reason, I don't like it at all.
It's interesting. What do you think, George? Are we demeaning the entire roster if we bring some talent in there that potentially doesn't belong there, so to speak?
Well, if it's somebody had a nice career in the UFC and just maybe kind of hit a cold streak, I don't mind bringing back a veteran, depending on their age, I suppose. I wouldn't want to bring back when Coleman came back. Felt like, granted, he did give us a win, I believe, over Stephan Bonner. I can't remember how that turned out for him, but there's just some where you feel like it doesn't feel right. I wouldn't want anything like that. What I would want is someone young, like a Max Rashkoff or something like that we've always hailed from Extreme Couture and now Drysdale's gym. Somebody like that to be given an opportunity because they're out there and they're doing great things on the regional scene. Sure, but if you're talking about these future cards that are coming together, for example, I know that London card that's going to be at TBA, wherever that is, it's at 6 fights right now. You know what? I'm okay with that. If that card just needs to go with 6, okay. We don't need to force it if they can't find UFC quality talent.
I get it. I will say one thing, though, and I know I'm over time here, but I will say the quality of the game is so much higher right now. I think there are more bodies. Granted, they're not maybe the elite level, but you take anybody in the UFC roster right now and they'd go through the UFC 1 tournament with ease. You know what I mean? There's just more good bodies out there. And I'm just totally abusing the rules right now by taking my own time. All right, look, it looks like we're all going to have, speaking of extra time, have some extra time on our hands coming up since we're all going to be stuck inside as this coronavirus thing plays its way out. So here's what I want to say. We're always talking about what's next, what's moving forward. So let's take a look back. Everybody's got Fight Pass probably if they're fans of MMA, but they might be newer fans of MMA. So let's throw out some recommendation, all right? Whether it be on Fight Pass or wherever you legally watch your fights, that sort of thing. What would you recommend for people to watch? George, let's start with you. 2 minutes on the clock. Let's go.
All right. First of all, there's great archives of MMA Junkie Radio on YouTube. Start with our YouTube channel on MMA Junkie. MMA Junkie Video is basically our link to YouTube. There's a lot of quality content there. Sometimes when I go back, I realize there's things that I've missed. Yeah, hit that subscribe button. But if we want to talk about actual MMA and the fights themselves, man, I was always a mark for WEC. Strikeforce and Pride, I would start with those 3. Pick one and take it as a series. Start at 1 and just see how things evolve. You'll see a lot of familiar faces out there. Gilbert Melendez, Mike Swick, Josh Thompson, Nate Diaz. A lot of names that came through WEC. Start there, do the series, and then go to Strikeforce or Pride or wherever else there is. Don't jump around.
I like that. I like to watch things in order, see how things develop, get a piece of history. Because sometimes if you just pick and choose events, you don't really get how the whole story came together. So, Goze, what about you? What would you recommend some people check out?
Well, I like that route of going back and seeing where this all started, right? So you definitely want to hit up your Strikeforces, maybe a Daly versus Diaz type fight. Pride 33 is one of my favorite cards of all time. Get a Pride in. UFC 199 is one of my favorite UFC events. But here's the thing. When fighters don't have a fight, they say that's when they're getting better, right? Because they're focusing on things that maybe they're not the best at. As fans right now, maybe you could focus on things that you don't understand. Maybe catch a quintet and just watch some grappling and really understand what it is these guys are doing. They're very fun events. I think you can maybe become a better fan, better at judging. Play that game.
I like that. I'll tell you a couple of mine. First, UFC 16. Watch that one. It's the first one I ever attended. And if you tune in,
Blue shirt?
you'll see it. No blue shirt. No blue shirt. I was in the crowd. I was cage side. But if you tune in, you'll see a 20-year-old me in like the very first shot of the very first fight. So you can see me.
Was that like
20 years
Dothan,
old.
Alabama, or something?
It was New Orleans, Louisiana. Pontchartrain Event Center. I will also say me. Old school Pancras, man. That was what got me into it, man. The old school Pancras, man. That was some history. You'll see some familiar names.
Affliction would be easy, right? It was just 2 cards.
Yeah, you can get all the way through the Affliction history quick. All right, well, listen, if we're being completely honest, man, we don't really know what the next week is going to hold. It seems like things are changing by the hour. What we do know is that we are going to have to change locations. As most people probably know by now, the Strip is shutting down. I know for you guys, this is especially tough, man. This has been home here at Mandalay Bay for 11 years. And it's shutting down for a while, so we're going to have to go find ourselves a new studio. And I know it's tough to say goodbye, but we'll be back. I know we'll be back in this thing before you know it. Fingers crossed it'll be sooner rather than later. And listen, we're gonna keep talking about stuff every single week here on Spinning Back Clique.